Jazz used to be cool. You know what's cool now? Jazz. It's cool again, baby. I've noticed a trend in the guitar community and the music community in general about this new style of guitar playing. We're going to look at it from the guitar player's perspective. As we know, with different decades come different popular genres of music. Back in the past, it was jazz, and then as things progressed, it became blues, and then it became rock, and then metal, and then grunge. From about 2000 until now, it's really evolved into kind of electronic, top 40 pop, hip hop, and basically a lot of genres that don't necessarily feature the guitar as had been the case throughout history. And now what I'm seeing, which I am very much in support of, and what I think is innovating the guitar specifically and bringing new faces to the guitar world, is this blend between hip-hop, the most popular genre by far today, and jazz.
You like jazz?
Now you can call this genre many different things: neo-soul, chill hop, whatever you want to say. There are some very important guitar players doing some very important things. There are a few guitar players that I like to follow on Instagram, such as Bo Diakovic, Mateus Asado, Hol Sveen, Ichika, and more mainstream guitar players such as Isaiah Sharkey.
I don't know how much more I can take. I'm needing you here right now, right away. I want you around always, and I will hold you down always.
What all these guitar players are doing is really amazing to me, and I want to examine some of the stylings that they imbue in their guitar playing, this blend between hip-hop and jazz. And I believe it is a lot to do with an understanding of jazz and an homage to the most popular genre once upon a time. And the numbers bear it out. I think the most important YouTube channel on YouTube right now is chill hop music. And I don't know about you guys, I have it on all the time while I'm doing anything other than playing guitar. It's sort of like the soundtrack for my house. It's always on. And I don't think I'm alone in that, and I think that that testifies to perhaps the guitar coming back in a new way. And, you know, that's a good thing. I mean, my friend Adam Neely just went on a whole tour where he played nothing but jazz. Actually, I don't know what to call your music, Adam, but whatever it is, it's awesome. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of break down this style of guitar playing in hopes that it will inspire you to give it a shot, or if nothing else, just pick up your guitar. So I have my keyboard set up with this kind of gritty dub sound. The syncopation is really what I'm going to focus on. So I have a Logic session open here, and I'm just going to record something and go through these tendencies that I think are really interesting and fun to learn. Normally I have a kind of slower tempo. Let's put it at 80. And you can quantize this to 30-second notes. And we'll just go ahead and loop that. Go ahead and create an audio track for our guitar. And I'm just going to noodle a little bit and see what we come up with. Pretty nifty. Now, I can cut that up if I want. I actually kind of like that. We'll just loop that for now. And I think that was pretty much on the beat. Now I'll add a little bit of harmonic context. So, little turnaround there for you. I'll get into that in a moment. And what we can do is add in some keys as well, just to add a bit of texture and atmosphere. So, very basic groove, but you can hear the jazz influence, I think, because a normal pop progression does not go like that. I used an understanding of music theory to construct this, whether or not it was really on display, because we have an F sharp minor, G minor, and then the turnaround with an A minor to a G7. I'm really not in one given key. Like, there's nowhere that this chord progression fits. That's usually where the trope of play the wrong notes and you're playing jazz. Well, it's kind of true if I were trying to improvise over this, for example. I'm really just paying attention to each chord and playing through each change. So for example, I'll do just that so you can get an idea of what I'm thinking. So I'm really just thinking about it F sharp, then to G, easier than it looks because I'm kind of playing half step off each time. So you can sort of start to anticipate the chord change and really get some outside sounds if you want to. I kept it pretty inside, I think, for most of it, that little improv. But the point is, there's not any rules, and I've said that a lot in recent videos. There are no rules in music, there are just guidelines, and it's important to kind of understand the rules before you go breaking them. Essentially what I'm thinking here is F sharp minor, and then G minor, and then when we come to this turnaround in A minor, this is setting up a key change. C major, for example. And that would be a really nice, second part to this groove where we could have something like I'm really just going all over the place, but again, taking the jazz harmony and really just messing with the groove and the syncopated feel that I think stems from hip hop is essentially this new wave of guitar awesomeness. And I'm going to get into some of the little sprinkly things that you can do, getting away from the music theory and just getting into some licks in a minute. But I think it's just a really important foundation to just understand the major scale. You don't even have to get all fancy with these different modulations and things like that. If you just understand the major scale, for example, G major, know those 7 diatonic chords, then you can really construct a whole mess of different sort of jazz chord progressions and put them into a hip-hop context using these fundamental grooves that I think are really prevalent in today's guitar world. We could take a 3-2-6. Put a sick chill hop beat behind that, and you are on your way to some really cool sounds, in my opinion. Now let's get to some little tricks of the trade that I picked up from some particularly cool jazz, neo soul, chill hop, awesome guitar players. A lot going on in this little ditty, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to go over a few things that I think are cool takeaways that you can immediately give a shot. Here is a little diddly, I call it, little diddly. It's very simple, just a little minor chord here, E minor. And you're just going to keep this position just like you would a bar chord. And this relies on a little bit of pinky strength. We're basically going to flourish our pinky for the E and B strings and our ring finger for the G and D strings. And it looks something like this. I'll do it real slow without the pick and then put it together. But we're strumming the whole thing. Something along those lines. It's not an exact science, but when you do it in time with this little vamp, it really sounds nice. That leads me to another little lick that is basically a flick of your finger. So you'll notice that you can kind of play scalar like this, or you can play. And this is really kind of a grace, glissando type of thing. But a lot of my favorite guitar players, not even just in this genre, but overall, I'm always trying to inflect more emotion into a note. And to do that pretty easily, you can take this technique and run with it because it's just really expressive, especially when you bend. We've gone over that before, but basically when you're coming to the end of a little run, perhaps, and you land on a note, you can just flick that note and maybe come down to a scale tone that happens to be nearby. And that would be, in conjunction with this, it could sound something like this. And that sort of nudge motion is applicable to chords as well. So say you have a chord right here, you can go, or from a half step above, something like that. And what I've also noticed is a cool little trick if you can't quite get that flourish down or you want a different kind of vibe. There's a cool thing, and I picked this up from Sharkey, I think, where instead of doing that little flourish, he'll actually pick it and have 2 strings at least ringing for each pick attack, and he'll do it very straight ahead. And it sounds something like this. So it's kind of going off that stacked fourth sort of sound, and it's just really nice, again, when it's in the context of a vamp and then something like that comes out. The cool thing about these sort of fills is they're not necessarily one note or one note at a time type fills. There's often an entire chord being played with each pick attack, or at least 2 notes. So that is really just interesting and pretty difficult, honestly. It takes some practicing to get all these strings pressed down in the right fashion to not be pushing them out of tune, but also being kind of delicate with this, because this is a very kind of vibey and delicate style. And if you notice, a lot of what I was doing was predicated on jazz harmony, going between a C major 7, C major 9, point is C major, the 1 chord, and then I would come over here to this chord right here, the 3 chord, E minor, and then it's really kind of just moving around wherever your thoughts take you. So I ended up, I think, at an F at one point, and then there was definitely a D minor in there. So that's the 2 chord, and then at one point I had this 5 suspended chord, and really I was just dancing around in the C major key. It wasn't anything necessarily fancy when you really break it down. I didn't do any modulation or modal interchange or anything like that. It was all pretty simple, but it was just moving between those chords that really made it sound kind of a little more special than just playing chord, 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 chord. So let's talk about a couple of those little things real quick. The stabs, I think, are a real staple of this sound. For example, this is one you can steal. We have the C major 7. So that's just a little D minor, or, you know, I call it a D minor. This would be a D minor triad, but it's just the bottom 2 notes of the D minor triad. And then we are taking the 5th fret, same thing, just a bar on the bottom 2 strings, and hammering onto 7 on the E string. So that can be a little kind of bridge from one chord to the next. And then we came over here, showed you a little flourish. Moving on, we see this F chord. It's just triads. One of the things that I played, I think, was also built on just 2 note chords, which are called dyads, but they're derived from triads. That's all just based on diatonic triads. Understanding 7th chords and triads in a major key is pretty essential if you want to kind of improvise in this style. Otherwise, you're just going to be learning other people's licks and tricks. It really is just the 7 diatonic chords of a major scale and learning some of these little stylings. If you've never delved into music theory, then this might have sounded a little bit like rocket science to you, but I promise it's not as hard as building a rocket. If you want to learn from me, you can check out Guitar Super System. There's a link right down below for you to do that. But really just kind of explore if you want to. Take a C major 7 chord, and then an E minor 7 chord, and then D minor 7 chord, so a D minor 11 chord, and then G sus chord. And that's a nice little neo-soul jam. I hope you guys enjoyed this deep dive into this new guitar style that maybe isn't new, but it's pretty new to me, and hopefully if you haven't heard about it before, you are enlightened now. Thanks again for watching, and hold on. I don't know, I have a pick, I know it. Keep shredding.